Hi there, Gerhard Bloom here, once again looking at the tyranny and the delusions of the social justice movement. So today I'd like to talk honestly about this gender-affirming care. This gender-affirming care is absolutely poisonous nonsense, and parents are being lied to. So this is absolutely indefensible, and it's definitely not science. The actual science is being suppressed, and parents are being lied to. The medical and psychological communities have been ideologically captured, and this is a fact. People who are within those respective communities who've tried to speak out against the dangers of this gender-affirming care are silenced, their careers are ruined, and they're shown the door. Absolutely poisonous. And parents, once again, they're being deliberately lied to. The facts are being concealed from them, and people need to wake up. And as I'll get to at the end, people and institutions are in fact waking up, right? The pendulum may be swinging in the opposite direction, and it couldn't happen fast enough. So what do leftists have to say about the phenomenon of detransitioning, right? People who, after having their bodies and their lives permanently destroyed and realize it's a tragic mistake, they lie. They claim that it's a debunked myth, right? When you hear leftists say it's a debunked myth, you know they're lying. It's not debunked, right? The truth is there are thousands of detransitioners, right, living with damaged and disfigured lives and bodies, right? As to the prevailing myth that the trans people are so subjectively certain of their lived experience that they don't ever live in regret or ever transitioning back, this is like the myth of acting white, another debunked myth, only the acting white myth is not a myth, and the truth and the reality of detransitioners is also a reality. Although the media has willfully suppressed their existence, and members of this radical gender ideology try to cancel them, right? Vicious attacks attempt to cancel them. And before I forget, please do not assume that members of the trans community support gender transitioning for minors. There are a great many of individuals within the trans community that have spoken out against the transitioning of minors. One notable one comes to mind, a trans man, Buck Angel. And I think it was on the podcast, Trigonometry. Buck Angel, very happy with his transition, for a woman into a man. He doesn't pretend he was always a man. He doesn't think he's really a man. He's a woman who chooses to live his life as though he's a man. So a woman, trans man, Buck Angel has demonstrated some real courage here. And no, I'm not anti-trans. You want to transition as an adult, go ahead, right? No sweat off of me, right? I'll treat you with respect. I'll afford you every courtesy. But transitioning children, this is unconscionable, right? So nobody ever detransitions? Well, logically, right, to prove that false, I just need one example, right? One example will logically prove that this myth is not a myth. Well, how about Kira Bell, right? Kira Bell filed a lawsuit against a clinic in the United Kingdom, the Tavistock clinic. We'll get to them more later, right? For having prescribed her puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones while she was underage. In addition to which she underwent a double mastectomy, right? She's now 23, and she has transitioned back to being the person that she is, a female. And needless to say, she deeply regrets the disfiguring changes to her body. Debra Soh talks about her particular case in Debra Soh's very fine work, The End of Gender. Right? And Kira Bell's mind, someone responsible should have been looking out for her best interests, right? I think she's got a point. Tattoo? What are you, crazy? You're still a child. Those things are permanent. Oh, you want to get a double mastectomy and start taking a soup of disfiguring chemicals? Well, of course, if you think it'll make you feel better. Does this make sense to you? Well, it does to radical trans activists who are shepherding confused and impressionable young people into getting precisely this done to them, right? In the medical community, right, its first principle is to do no harm, not medical experimentation on children, right? And parents, parents are told, they are literally told that that puberty blockers are like a chemical pause button, right? Chemical pause button, and the cross-sex hormones can be stopped at any time. Now think about this for a moment. A pause button on puberty. No, puberty happens in puberty, right? There's a flood of chemicals, natural hormones in your bodies during puberty that are excreted at that particular point in your developmental history, right? It doesn't happen before puberty, and it drastically tapers off after puberty. These lead to permanent changes. So no, there's no pausing puberty, right? It stops normal development. It can't be undone. And just as troubling, parents are told that anything other than a gender-affirming response from them will result in a serious risk of suicide. Well, this is a distortion of the facts. Right? So, although it is true, gender dysphoric adolescents are at an increased risk of suicide, their outcomes are the same as those with similar mental health problems that don't have gender dysphoria. This is from Abigail Shrier's work, Irreversible Damage. And as I say, there is no question that this the drastic rise in gender dysphoria is the result of social contagion. So this social contagion is leading to higher rates of suicidality. Right? Absolutely terrible. So the suicide scare is largely based on a 2014 study that found 41% of adults identifying as trans, so adults identifying as trans had at some point attempted suicide. The study didn't, however, factor in comorbidity with other mental conditions, right? So nor did it establish whether the attempt was coincidental to their trans identity, right? So could be completely unrelated. What serious scientific studies do is they constrain the variables, right? So you isolate the variables. This study did not do that. This is also from Debra Soh's book, The End of Gender. So of more concern is a study from the British Tavistock Center that found an increase in self-harm and suicide ideation in transgender children who've received puberty blockers for more than 1 year. So these children go on puberty blockers. A year later, an increase in suicidality. Right? Does this sound like it's being helpful to you? And what happens if we just leave these little kids alone, right? What happens if we just leave these kids alone? If you don't medically intervene with permanently disfiguring chemicals and surgeries, over 80% desist, right? Over 80% wake up one day and they realize it's a mistake, right? I'm not cruelly trapped in the wrong body. This is my body. Most of them, yes, turn out to be gay, right? Period of confusion, and now confusion dovetailing with ideological manipulation. They wake up, they realize they're not trapped in the wrong body, no permanent disfigurement to their bodies. They can pick up their lives and carry on, right? Carry on. Over 80%, right? Now, interesting to note. Remember I mentioned the Tavistock Clinic? It is the sole center in Britain for gender dysphoria treatment for minors. It has been ordered to shut down, right? For more than a decade, there's been allegations that it rushed teenagers into life-altering puberty blockers and potent hormones and other medications, and children were fast-tracked onto these permanently life-altering chemicals and treatments. Well, that center has been told to shut its doors. And it's not alone. Britain is not alone. Other countries are following that example for similar reasons. The data is coming in, the data is unambiguous. Children are being damaged here. And as the title of Abigail Shrier's book suggests, irreversibly damaged. Right? Finland and Sweden are reversing course rapidly. Right? They're putting a brake on shepherding these kids into these treatments. And the United States and Canada, no, it's the momentum is still in the opposite direction. Still in the opposite direction. And social justice warriors, they think they're heroes here. They think they're on the side of social virtue. I will remind the listener, history's greatest evils were done by people who thought they were fighting the good fight. They were on the side of history and humanity and killed millions. And these social justice warriors who are, they think they're defending trans rights as they're shepherding these children into this toxic nonsense. They're not. They're damaging lives. At any rate, sorry, I get a bit passionate about this. At any rate, thank you for watching the video. I do hope you'll check out my book, Deconstructing Social Justice. It's available on Amazon. It's important not because I wrote it. I wrote it because the issues could not be more important. I discuss this issue and many other very important issues at length. And yes, I bring the groceries. I bring the groceries. The data is there. The evidence is there. At any rate, thank you so much for your time. And please do drop a thumbs up. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.